I'd like to do a series of videos now where we're using factoring to solve equations. As we look at some of these videos, you may be looking at them and wondering, well, why in the heck would I do factoring to solve them? Because we're at our infancy stage here, it's going to take a while to develop this idea. So I readily admit there are easier ways to solve some of these equations, but we're trying to establish a foundation of using factoring to solve these equations. So I ask you to bear with me as we run through some of these problems. Now, the first thing I want to do is just talk about an idea here. Let me throw two variables at you. Let me say that a times x is equal to 0. What can you tell me about this statement? Now, I'll tell you it's true. I guarantee you it's a true statement. So what can you tell me? Hopefully as you look at that, you recognize that either a is going to be 0, because 0 times anything is 0, or x is going to be 0. And so really what happens is you can break this down into cases. In case 1, you go a equals 0. In case 2, you go x is equal to 0. Now as we establish this, we're going to make these cases become a little more challenging each time. So maybe I'll say for my second idea, x plus 3 times x minus 1 equals 0. Now, thinking of these as factors or cases here, what could I do to make this 0? What value of x would make this 0? Hence, 0 times anything would be 0. Hopefully, as you look at that, you realize negative 3 would make this 0, and negative 3 times anything, in this case, would be a 0. 0 times anything would be 0. And so, in case 1, you could actually solve this. You can go x plus 3 equals 0. I'm showing you how we come up with that negative 3. We move the x over. It gives me negative 3. So it's stating that if I put negative 3 in here, negative 3 plus 3 is 0, and that zeroes this out. It makes the answer 0. In a similar way, I can go to case 2, and I can just solve it out. X minus 1 is equal to 0. So I move the 1 over. X would be 1. And so if I put 1 into the second case, 1 minus 1 is 0, and 0 times anything would be 0. And so I would list my answers. This is what we call a finite set of solutions. We would say 1 and negative 3. Now see, I messed that up here. It's okay that we're doing a video here because that's how we learn. We see that you don't want to put this 1, negative 3. You want to go from least to greatest. You always list out your sets, your solutions, from least to greatest. And so there's our idea. When you look at these cases, you can always zero them out, set them equal to 0, and solve them. And we're going to look at a series of videos of how we're going to use the factoring to get to these stages and then obviously inspect it to get our solutions.